Hello, I'm Jessica Henderson, your Finance Director at the Landings Association. We would like to share this presentation with you that outlines the 2025 Capital Reserves budget that your Board of Directors will be voting to approve on December 17, 2024. This budget includes revenue and expenses for the Capital Reserve Fund. Join me as we walk through the highlights and details for the Association's 2025 Capital Reserves budget. The association staff, along with members of the Finance Committee, begin working on the upcoming year budget in June of each year. The items that we will be discussing include the Capital Reserves revenue, depreciation threshold change, the 2025 Capital Reserves expense budget, and the next steps for approval. In 2025, staff are requesting an increase in the depreciation threshold from $1,000 to $5,000 per asset, and we will explain the impacts of that policy change. As mentioned earlier, the association is requesting an increase in the depreciation threshold from $1,000 to $5,000. This increase will shift funding of those assets currently under that threshold from the Capital Reserves Fund to the operating fund. In total, there are 195 assets with a total cost of $502,921. The 2025 impact is $60,205 of assets previously funded through capital reserves will move under the operating fund umbrella. There is no change to cash flow with this change in policy. The Capital Reserves Fund generates revenue through annual assessment dollars and interest earnings. In 2025, $915 out of the $2,518 assessment cost will fund the Capital Reserves budget. The association has laddered certificates of deposit to expect interest earnings of $450,000 in 2025. The 2025 Capital Reserves Fund expense budget is $5.825 million, 37% on roads, 25% on bridges, structures, equipment, and lagoons, 17% on storm drains, 15% on marinas, 5% on community paths and trails, and 1% on association capital. We would like to take a minute to explain the 2025 Capital Reserves expense budget and the major changes in category compared to the 2024 budget. The roads budget increased by $461,000 in 2025 compared to 2024. Storm drains decreased by $64,000 in 2025. The allowance for the Marsh Tower observation structure increased by $195,000 compared to 2024, where this was originally budgeted. The dry stack Phase 3 replacement cost increased by $84,000, including an increase in the scope to allow more rack space in this phase of the project. $331,000 in project cost are from various assets that moved into the 2025 budget compared to a longer useful life. The blue column represents the 2024 budget. Orange, the 2024 year-end estimate, and gray, the 2025 budget. As you can see, the category Association Capital and Community Paths stay relatively the same, with an increase in marina expenditures mainly due to the timing of the payments for the Dry Stack Phase 3 project. Storm drains have a slight decrease in 2025 expenses compared to the 2024 budget, with roads and bridges, structures, equipment, and lagoons increasing in 2025. In 2020, the association engaged with a reserve specialist to review the assets, useful lives, component values. This study is industry standard to not only plan for the short term, but also the long term. The association updates this report each year with an on-site review every 5 years. In 2025, the reserve specialist will come back on site to do a visual inspection of the association's asset. These numbers represent the current replacement cost, fully funded amount, annual contributions and expenses through assessment revenue, and the beginning cash balance in the Capital Reserve Fund. The board policy manual currently states that the association is to be 30% funded, which is achieved in 2025. The next steps for the 2025 budget will include the formal approval at the December 17th Board of Directors meeting. At that time, your board directors will approve the following: the 2025 fee schedule, the 2025 budget assumptions, 2025 assessment allocations between the operating and capital reserves fund, the 2025 operating budget, and the 2025 capital reserves budget. We thank you for joining during this presentation. The 2025 budget book will also be available electronically on our website, www.landings.org. Click Resources and then Governing Documents. There you will find the budget book along with the updated reserve study and other important information items.